Late night tip on the West Coast. 2 9 seeds, one in the East, one in the West, both matching up tonight on a Monday night, trying to find a win for your Wizards. When it was all said and done, Bradley Beal trying his best to lead the way. He also lost a tooth. Well, that's more of a footnote. Final score was 135 to 126. Wizards take the loss, now 26-30 on the season. Welcome into Postgame Live. Wes Hall, Christy Winters-Scott, going to be joined by Chris and the crew here in a moment. Christy, I'm going to get straight to it because we don't have a lot of time here on Postgame. So first off, thoughts on the game, what you saw?
Well, I thought that Golden State got off a lot of threes. They were 20 of 40 from the three-point line, obviously 50%, but they shot 56% from the floor, and I thought that was a difference maker. So it wasn't necessarily the offense for Washington, because Washington shot 43% from three. They did a great job of finding the extra person and getting the extra passes down, but I think it was a defensive lapse in this game in terms of the continuity and the consistency on that side of the floor. So with 40 attempts from three, that's too many chances for Golden State from the outside, and we already know how aggressive they are to take those threes. So we just didn't push them off the line enough. We just didn't get aggressive enough and disrupt Golden State's offense enough to get this victory and to sustain it. I mean, we had a lead early in this contest, but just didn't have the wherewithal on the defensive end to get consecutive stops down the stretch. Indeed,
and tonight was one of those nights where, you know, history was made for Bradley Beal. Yeah. He now is up there in the club, the 15,000-point club with Elvin Hayes. Now, Elvin had, if I'm not mistaken, 15,551, even though he had over 27 in his career. But what do you make about Brad's performance tonight on the court to make that happen? 33 points, 3 boards, 4 assists tonight, 3 from 8 from deep. Not bad, and he had a steal on top of it.
Yeah, I love it. I think, you know, for Bradley Beal to have 3 of his last 4 games scoring over 30 points. I mean, he has found his offensive rhythm after being out with an injury. He looks a little gimpy right there, but he fought so hard tonight. He lost a tooth, kept playing, got up right there from being banged around a little bit, but continued his efficient play. So his leadership is still intact, and hopefully his tooth will be back intact tomorrow or something if he can get that fixed with the game tomorrow. I don't know how he's going to get it fixed, but, you know, Monte
He'll figure it out. I was going to say, Tay had the same situation earlier in the season on the West Coast in California, so we got to fix that. But right now I want to bring in Chris and Drew and get their thoughts on it. Of course, Drew had some extra people in the booth. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show, but I want you guys to break down of the game that you saw. Go ahead, Drew.
Hey, my keys to the game, I stand by it still. You have to guard the three-point line playing against this team, whether Steph is available or not. And that's what it came down to. The Wizards won this game. They took away about four good looks from the Warriors. I think they come out on top, and it's going to be a total momentum shift. I'm tired over here, too.
You ready to get on
Just like y'all, I'm ready to get on this plane, too. But it could have totally shifted in the favor of the Wizards if they would have guarded that line, but they just could not.
I think Christy said it best. The three-point shooting is really the difference. But, Christy, I want to follow up by asking you this, too. Okay. I thought the Warriors had championship-level assists tonight, too.
Yes.
They had 40 assists, 40, without their best player out there. And as you guys know, when your best player is not available, sometimes the others kind of step up. We saw that tonight with the Warriors with DiVincenzo, JaMychal Green. They outscored the Wizards 48-38 in terms of bench points. Washington had enough offense. We've said that. But, again, when you can get 40 assists in a game, I don't know what the data says about that, but I think you're probably going to win a lot of basketball games.
No, absolutely, Chris. I mean, when you're sharing the basketball like that and shots are falling, you know, sometimes you see the passes going, but the shots aren't going. But for Golden State to knock in 20 of their 43s and to have 40 blistering assists, that's amazing. But it goes back to what Drew just said and what I was saying earlier, just about the disruption, right? I think Washington had good defense and good energy on that side of the ball initially, but they didn't sustain it as the game went along. But for Golden State, you know, the championship mentality, like you said, had them in an avalanche, you know, mentality, and they knew at the beginning they were down 15, but they knew they could, you know, continue to chip away at it and got what they wanted at home.
Guys,
Klay Thompson got 13 threes off tonight. And early in the game, Drew's like, you just have to know where he is. You can't just let him just kind of step into a three. I mean, what did he score against Oklahoma City that one year in the playoffs off of 8 dribbles? I mean, this guy has the ability to take over games by not even putting the ball on the deck.
It started with a 6, so whatever after that, it was
But two things, guys. One, looking at the way that the Wizards started the game, they had 39 points in the first quarter, but then gave up 42 in the second. And we've talked about the third quarter being a point of concern. Abnormal for Washington, Drew, to have a second quarter like that, especially knowing how dangerous it can be to play in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That second quarter definitely took away, I would say, the momentum the Wizards got early on in that first half, shooting down threes. I had a, 15-point lead in that first half, and it totally knocked the wind out of them going into halftime. And in that third quarter, you're talking about consistent basketball. After that, the worst quarter for the Warriors was that first quarter. After that, they played Warriors basketball. Second, third, fourth quarter, ball was moving, making you rotate, making your defense make a mistake. It was just tough. The effort was there, but 40 assists, that means that ball was moving.
That ball was popping like Jiffy.
Hey, Drew, I have a question. I know you played so many years in the NBA, but I didn't know you were good at time travel because apparently your doppelganger, who was your senior, a.k.a. Big Drew, was along with you guys in the booth, and I'm seeing the beards, I'm seeing the look-alike. Like, talk to me about how awesome it was to have Pops up there with you. And where's my gumbo friend?
Yeah.
Oh, man, listen.
I ate it all.
Yeah, Chris ate it all. I had to actually go buy some Tupperware for to-go containers for Chris's meal. And did you fall asleep after that?
The itis kicked in 20 minutes after I ate it. It was that good.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
we need that. We need that.
I'm going to tell y'all a quick story real quick before we go. This is how you know the gumbo was really good. I literally called the concierge at the hotel and asked for a microwave.
That's when
and
you
they
know.
delivered.
Did they charge you? Did they charge you?
Didn't charge me.
Because I didn't charge you.
Did not charge you. No, see that? No, that's real. Like when you actually go down to the front desk and like, yo, I need a microwave.
I
didn't go down there. I called.
And in only true Chris Miller fashion. Guys,
yeah.
I know you're both ready to get on that plane to head up to Portland. Appreciate the call. As always, safe travels. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Thanks, guys.
Back-to-back on the road Wizards fans. Christy and I, let's talk about Kristaps Porzingis tonight. 34 points. He's a unicorn. He gave you 8 from 8 from the charity stripe. Did his job there. 2 for 3 from the field. 7 boards, 2 assists. Part of that big 3 thing we talk about in the absence of Kyle Kuzma. Brad and KP, especially KP, leading the way.
Absolutely, but in a game like this, Wes, you really do miss the presence of a Kyle Kuzma. And when you just said his name, I was like, wow, if they had that extra scoring punch, 20 more points, maybe 10 more boards.
But KP gave you 34 tonight.
He did, in the absence of Kuz. But KP was fantastic tonight within his skill set. We always talk about how he's a 3-level scorer, but what I like most about what Kristaps Porzingis did tonight, he got into the paint. He attacked it. Sometimes he got all the way to the rack. Sometimes he stopped right there mid-range. But his ability to stretch the floor is excellent. And for Washington to have his presence in transition where he can just come down, barrel down that tunnel, and finish right at the rim, that's special. At 7'3", to be able to possess that level of footwork, but also the balance and the wherewithal mentally to be able to sustain that level of efficiency on the offensive end. So he had a fantastic showing. His fight on the defensive end is always going to be there, but I thought his offensive variety of the way that he was able to score tonight really stood out for the Wizards.
Christy, over his last 3 games, he's averaging 55% from behind the arc. And again, you mentioned in the absence of Kyle Kuzma. Is it not incumbent upon this Wizards team to have both of he and Brad in the 30-plus land? Or is it better for the team if they're in the 20, 25-point range and other people get a seat at the table too? Just depends on the matchup.
Yeah, that's absolutely depends on the matchups and where you want to exploit your opponents defensively. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm always a proponent of balanced scoring. So I think if they both scored in the 20s, like 25 max, I think that would be good. And we've seen Washington have consecutive games where they've had 7 players in double-figure scoring, and those were wins, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
They were.
Right? Okay. So with that being said, let's understand that it takes a village, okay? It takes the entire squad. And I know they had gaudy stat lines tonight with Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis both over 30 points. But I think at the end of the day, you really need to have everybody's best effort and best opportunities to present their best effort, right? So you can't say, hey, have your best effort and only take 2 or 3 shots. You know, you have to be able to be in your rhythm and flow as well.
To your point about getting into the paint, past 2 games, 8 for 8 from the charity stripe.
Love
so
that.
he's 100% from both of those games. What does it say about the fact that that might be somewhere he can exploit defenses by, hey, if they're going to foul me, he knows he's going to knock them down. He can shoot from the parking lot, but it's also good to make them have to prevent you from scoring easy buckets inside.
Well, I think he has to be unpredictable in that way. I think he has so much to say about how he scores and when and where he scores on the court for the Wizards. So I think, yes, I love the way he attacked the paint. He got his 10 toes down in there and got the ball to the rim. I think he is understated in that way. I mean, he only takes like 2 steps from the foul line because he's so tall, and he's able to get in there and finish. So I think he should be more intentional about attacking the paint a little bit more, whether or not he gets all the way to the rim or not. If he gets in the lane, he's going to draw contact from somebody. That second level of defense is going to come up and try to disrupt him and get into his body, which we've seen tonight, right? 8 free throws. That's a ton. Usually you get maybe 4, you know, on average. But I think Kristaps Porzingis, if he can stay aggressive and hunting his 10 toes down into the paint, I think the Wizards team as a whole will be better for it.
You know what's interesting, too, is that's on the offensive side. On the defensive side, how many fouls did he have tonight? 1. Last 2 games before that, 2 apiece. See, so he's not only able to do the smart thing on the offensive side, he's doing it on the defensive side as well. But something else I want to remind people as we go to break. Shout out to Fly Guy Q, a.k.a. Quentin Jackson. My man. Yeah, he's got a 2-way contract with the Go-Go and the Wizards. Got his first bucket in the NBA tonight. Crossed over Draymond Green in the corner. Shout out to you, Q. Keep doing your thing.
Let's work.